Now, buddy, breaking news, horrible tragedy. A Ryanair 737 has just crashed. At least that is according to GB News. Ryanair flight from UK crashes on runway in Greece. Wrecking wing. You could feel the impact. Absolutely the stupidest thing I've ever read. Because we all know what happened in Greece at the Kalamata airport. A 737 with the registration of EIHMZ, Hotel Mike Zulu, flew from London Stansted to Kalamata, Greece indeed, and after landing it hit a runway barrier. In fact, this one right here, these kind of runway barriers are set up everywhere at airports to mainly protect the surroundings of the jet wind. And yes, of course, this is a very costly mistake. The split winglet here of the 737 MAX 8200 are of course set in place to improve the aerodynamic efficiency of the wing because it reduces wing vortices. But they break, apparently all the time. I mean, you may remember this 737 MAX wingtip strike that happened because of a little bit too much crosswind here in the US. Boom, and very much same scenario, we've just gotten rid of the split winglet. Not that big of a deal, to be honest, but the headlines made out of this incident are just absolutely crazy. Ryanair London to Greece flight with a Boeing 737 crash doing landing. Ryanair 737 crashes into runway barrier. This is hardly a crash. This thing just kind of taxied into it lightly after landing. You know, after the 737 MAX did a more or less hard land. We all know it might have been a hard landing here.
'Cause tomorrow I'll be flying Ryanair.
On Kalamata's airport, runway 17 right. Okay, that was a very hard landing. Sorry about that.
'Cause it might be the landings that break your spine. Oh, send off prayer.
The airplane went on to taxi to parking here right on the ramp, and this is where presumably the incident happened. Now we have to somehow imagine some sort of a barrier here that the right winglet ends up crashing into. Now why that happened, we don't quite know. Maybe the plane taxied a bit to the right. Maybe the airport was not, properly set up and they just put a runway barrier where the taxiway was a bit too close to the taxiway, and so plane crashed. But still, it makes me mad what media makes out of this story. This plane did not crash on runway in Greece, wrecking the wing. The plane only kind of ripped its split winglet off here a little bit. Something it doesn't really need for flying, to be honest, anyway. And it didn't wreck the wing. You could feel the impact, duh. I like how people are kind of pointing that out on the Britain's news channel comments. This isn't a crash. Unnecessary red top sensationalism. There was no crash on the runway. A very minor scrape with a fence. So that's all just and once again, ground collisions happen literally every single month. I'm not kidding. This is another one. This is here another distracted truck driver who crashed into a wing. Look at this. Normal Ryanair flight. Oh yeah, there's actually a collision between Ryanair and another Ryanair. So they both collided into each other. That happens all the time on the ground. Here's another totally different event. Here's a collision with a tug that left a hole in the plane. Once again, these ground collisions happen all the time, and they're nothing special, really. But what I find interesting is what they did after this. If you look on Flight Radar 24, you can see the 737 flew into Kalamata and now has a bit of a broken split winglet, but yet you can see the very airplane flying still. I mean, the incident happened on the 18th of June, 2 days ago, and all the flights that the plane was supposed to do were cancelled on that day. But on the next day, on the 19th of June, the plane went on to fly to Milan. It then did a lot of flying. On the same day, yesterday, it flew to Tirana, Albania. It then flew from Tirana to Milan back. No problem, on the same day. And just on the day of recording, it flew from Milan all the way, probably one of the longest flights that Ryanair actually operates, to Fuerteventura. A nearly 4-hour flight on this guy. And guess what? Just after that, this morning, the plane flew back to Milan. And as I'm in the process of recording, it's flying from Milan to Ibiza. Where the biggest problem now with this plane is probably people vaping on board.
Up, we're going to high. Let's go.
But it is a very interesting question now. What did they do to fix this airplane so quickly? Fundamentally crashed airplane, by the way, to keep it flying in the air. Let me tell you, they didn't do much. I mean, here we are in the flight simulator that realistically simulates the broken winglet. You can see right one is missing, left one is still there. And the truth is, of course, we have a little bit of aerodynamic imbalance, meaning that if we take off like this, you know, with one winglet on, with one winglet missing, we'll probably see a little bit of an imbalance in flying. This thing will probably like tip to the right of some sort. So let me go ahead and find that out. Just take off here from Kalamata's runway again, something the plane did a day after. And as you can see, plane takes off, and actually you can okay, if you were in the cockpit, you know, with maybe a little bit of crosswind going, you're not even able to tell this. This is like so dumb. This plane is completely airworthy still, and that's what Ryanair figured. And of course, they didn't have the airplane fly like this. All these routes here, plane is once again flying right now, but they did something else to fix it. On the evening of the 18th of June, they flew in a technician. And what did the technician do? He cut off the left winglet too, which would have probably looked somewhat like this. Here we can see both winglets being cut off. Now, I assume they did that, but it might not have happened. We don't know, really. If anyone has a photo of the current plane as it's flying to Ibiza now, please let me know, because I think they wouldn't even have to remove the left winglet as well to make it symmetric. Because in aviation, it's all about rules, and rules are set before airplanes fly. In flying, there's something called the CDL, the Configuration Deviation List. And at least on the A320, it says one wingtip fence can be missing, provided the exposed structure is covered and the fuel burn planning is increased by 1.69%. Not more. Which is why we, for example, see the A320 not flying with a right sharklet. It doesn't matter because the CDL allows for it. Now, the reason I believe they removed both winglets down there is because amongst airlines with the 737, the CDL says that you're supposed to remove both of these down-facing ventral streaks. Once again, no problem, because there is no fuel in there. It's not connected to the airplane. It's not any sensors. It's just a little accessory, like adding or removing a little body kit part on your racing Golf. So no, this isn't the first time an airline flies a crashed plane, and it won't be the last time. Here's Icelandair doing the exact same thing. Yes, this crash is so minor that it literally doesn't matter to the flying of the airplane. So stop being so sensational. Like whenever you read these stories on the Ryanair crashes into barrier, immediately brought in with the Air India crash for some reason. These events have nothing to do with each other. It's just kind of boring. No wonder that more and more people take their news sources from people on the internet, like me, an influencer who's not an journalist or anything. But anyway, good flying here on the Max 8200. Always make sure to check your right and your left, not turn too fast on the taxiway and crash into stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. As always, good night. And a special thanks goes out to my members, my supporters: Guns Killer, R27, James Duram, That Dude, Anime Gods of Gaming, Derek, Insider Plane, Nishijitsu Fanner, Professional Jamal, Ryland Williams, and New the York. You've got beautiful names.